Helen of Troy was given the face that launched 1,000 ships. For love and marriage, the nations waged war. Heroes were born. The gods came down from Mount Olympus. The Trojan horse was built, and Odysseus sailed between Scylla and Charybdis. For love and marriage, Homer wrote two of the greatest works of literature in all the world, the Iliad and the Odyssey, without which we would not today have one of the greatest guitar licks in all of rock history, Achilles' Last Stand, recorded in 1976 by Jimmy Page. For love and marriage, and for defense of love and marriage, the whole world moved. This is what love and marriage does in a broken and sinful world. Little wars are formed in your families, and great big wars are formed among great nations. Then we write songs to commemorate the misery, most of them involving red Solo cups and pickup trucks, others of them becoming great songs occupying the finest opera houses in the world. We are by nature set at odds against each other. And this Sunday, as we remember every first Sunday of Advent, we remember the promise made to us by our God that He will hammer out our warfare. Come, O house of Jacob, let us walk in the light of the Lord. He does hammer it out, doesn't He? Peace treaties are signed every time a husband forgives his wife. And, more importantly, when a wife forgives her husband. After all, we know who in a marriage sins far more than the other and is in far more need of forgiveness. Peace treaties are signed among the nations, and peace endures for a little while, at least. When was the last time the nations waged war in Western New York? Believe me, I know. Every time I travel to Canada, I'm reminded it's been 200 years. That's a remarkable period of peace. So the promise of hammering swords into plowshares is kept. The presence of God is in our midst. At the same time, it is not yet realized. We know that 200 years is not a terribly long time, and we read our history books, reading about the wars that did take place here between the various Indian tribes, between the French and English, between the English and the Americans, and between the white man and the American Indian. We've sent our young men and women abroad from here, realizing here at home the realities of warfare among the nations. Therefore, we know that the promise of beating spears into pruning hooks is far from fulfilled, even with the presence of God in our midst. For love and marriage, we fight each other. For eating and drinking, we fight. Now Jesus makes sense, doesn't He? What were they doing in the days of Noah? Moses tells us that God was sorry that He had made us. He even uses the word repent. God repented when He saw that every intent of every man and every woman was always evil all the time. Jesus puts it this way: they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. Eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. Doesn't that just about sum up your life? All right, fine, argue with it then. As for me, I drag myself out there to fetch a few bucks so I can pay the mortgage for my house, which is for my wife, and so that I can buy food for me and her and my boys so that we can eat and drink. We live in a prosperous society, so we veneer a layer of extracurriculars on that, hockey practice to do something with all that energy suited for warfare, and music lessons to write songs about love and marriage ending in warfare, small and great. What else is there? they knew nothing about the end. They knew nothing about the coming wrath, and they continued getting up to go to work to fend for love and marriage, and they died in ignorance, judged according to wrath, without ever knowing that God was angry with them. We know better. What was it like, I wonder, to receive the order in the middle of the night to attack at dawn? I've read books about it, about soldiers in Normandy fighting for love and marriage, to attack a vicious enemy, also fighting for love and marriage, at dawn. How do you wake up when the sun rises so that you might deal out death and you might die in so doing? How do you wake up? Does the sun really rise? When death is your life, the sun never rises. When warfare is the essence of your existence, the sun never rises. Well, not never. We have a promise that the sun will rise. We Christians are like those who know that the night is in fact coming to an end. We also know that when it comes to an end, the order to attack will be superseded by a new order, the order to lay down your arms. Peace has come to settle your warfare. The King has come with the rising of the sun. Right now, we live as those who have beaten our swords into plowshares, as though we have already inherited the land when the evil have been taken away. We live right now as though we have been left behind in a paradise of sowing and harvesting, just as it was for Noah, who was left behind to cultivate a land washed clean of evil. We live right now as though we are waking up from a long slumber, stumbling around looking for the bathroom, trying to wash off the nightmare of sin and warfare. Are we set at odds against each other? Yes. Yes, indeed we are, by our nature. Are we at peace with each other? Even now, yes, by the nature of Christ. It's hard to believe if you go by what you see, all the guns and warfare, by what you hear, all the songs about love and marriage. You've seen peace already, however, by faith, as faithful Noah survived the flood, and by faith as Jesus survived death. The world was washed in a flood of water when Noah survived. The world was washed in blood when Jesus survived. The man who washed the world in blood makes a promise to you. Do you believe it? Do you believe that you have peace with each other? Do you believe that you have peace with God? A man who comes back from the dead is probably trustworthy, even though practically 2,000 years have elapsed since St. Paul told us that the night is nearly over, the day is almost here. We are certain that his promise will be fulfilled. A man who came back from the dead made the promise. He came back from the dead. He will come back for you to bring peace to completion. Therefore, keep watch.